Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm still a little bit under the weather. I don't really feel bad. I just have my throat's not sore to swallow or anything like that. It's just kind of scratchy and irritated, and I really think it's allergies because I'm out here and I can see out on the farm. I can see different trees are budding out and beginning to come alive. The pastures are greening up, and it's always exciting to see that. But me and Blade especially really struggle with our allergies, and Howie always struggled with allergies, and it seems like we never any of us were bothered by the same exact things. Some of the things that bother Blade doesn't bother me at all, and some of the things that really send me over the edge doesn't bother him. And I have a real problem with cedar, and sometimes I have trouble with oak, and so it's just that time of the year. But it's still beautiful to be outside, and I can still smell the brush fires, and so I don't really want to be out in that because it irritates me some. So I thought I'd just get in the farm truck, and it's a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. Not necessarily the farm truck, but farms in general. Because I haven't been feeling real well, I've just been kind of staying in close around in the living room and kind of taking it easy, giving myself a little bit of a break. So I've been listening to reports coming out of out across the world, different things that are going on, and listening to all the opinions that people have and the different ideas that people are contributing to the conversation. And I heard some things that kind of startled me just a little bit. And then I've been reading articles like crazy. I love to read, and so I've been reading articles, and I've taken some notes. And so some of these statistics and things that I have to bring to you today are things that I've read. There's not anything that I came up with on my own. I'm definitely not an economist, and I'm not a genius or anything. Just a common country. I started calling myself a country girl, but I guess I'm way past country girlhood. So I'm just an old gal that's been around for a while, and I have a few things to say. And I have to tell you that I try to be really encouraging, and I try to make y'all smile and give you something to look forward to. But today my heart is just a little bit heavy. Well, y'all know that I live in Oklahoma, and we always have really bad storms in the springtime and in the fall. And I am scared of storms. I don't try to hide that fact. I try to get where I need to get when the storm is on its way. Now, I can remember Howie. He was always good at watching the weather and paying attention to all of the things, and he knew just when that we needed to take shelter. Now, I would have been in the shelter a long time before he was, but he always knew the proper time, the correct time to go. And he would watch those storms as the meteorologists would put them on the television screen, and he would watch them. And we always have certain areas it seems like the storms come out of that affects us the most. And he would watch those, and he had it down. And Blade used to get really aggravated at him because he'd say, "Now see how this is bowing?" And he would go right along with what the meteorologists had to say. And, there's always a leading edge to the storm. And a lot of times the leading edge ends up being the worst part of the storm when it blows in and it hits. And then behind it, sometimes it's not too bad. It might be thundering and lightning and windy, but the leading edge is usually the worst. But there's times when it back builds and it comes back together. The conditions, it all kind of regroups and comes back together, and then it hits again with force and with destruction. I feel like that we're in the leading edge of a storm that's brewing, And we see the things that is happening out across the world, and a lot of people are saying, well, that could be as bad as it gets. And it could be. But when I listen to the talking heads and those that seem to be in control, and they're throwing out numbers and they're throwing out ideas, it lets me know that that they're more than just a little concerned themselves, and we need to take it seriously. Now our president, in some of his speeches that he's gave in the last few days, his speaking engagements, he has talked about, that there are going to be some shortages and there is going to be some pain, but we were going to have to pull together, and that the U.S. was going to step up and do some things. So I thought I'd take a few minutes to share with you some of the things that I read in these articles, and that I listened to economists and different ones that are in the know, and what they had to say. And that it's not just something that some of us in the homesteading community is making up to get more views on our channels, or to drive you to our channels to watch, or to get you to buy products that we put our stamp of approval on. It's way beyond any of that. It's time for us to take it seriously and consider our households and those around us that we love and care about, and that we want to see taken care of. We all know the reports that are coming out of Ukraine and Russia, besides the war and all the terrible things that are going on there. They're also been talking about, the percentages of the world's wheat and the fertilizer and all of the different things that these countries provide for the world, and how that is going to in turn affect all of the world's economies and our food sources. And I know a lot of people believe that. A lot of you are doing all that you know to do, and have stepped it up a little bit higher to get prepared for the things that might be coming down the pike. But there are still those that are denying that these things are going to happen, that we're so used to in this country being able to go in the U.S. to just go down the road just a little bit, go to a grocery store and get the things that we need. Not even considering at all that those sources may not be there someday, or the buildings might possibly be there, but the store shelves could be empty. A lot of people deny that those things could happen, and it's because we have been so blessed. We have not, for the most part, we have not had to go through a whole lot of doing without. And, in the Depression time and in World War II, they, had their ration books, and they had to make do with what they had, and going from there, we learned to do some things. But along the way, we kind of relaxed a little bit. And we have a tendency to do those things. We work really hard at something, and we're doing well with it, and we're accomplishing the goals. And then we kind of relax a little bit, and we find out that we've lost some of the old ways. We've lost some of the knowledge and some of the skills that we had. And so we're used to just running down, if we sit down to supper or getting ready to sit down to supper, and we realize that, hey, we're out of a bottle of ketchup. Well, we just get in the car and run down to the local store and get a bottle of ketchup. No thinking about it at all. And back home we come. But I think that times are going to get a little bit rougher for us to do those kind of things. Something that seems so trivial is something that I believe we're going to have to start thinking about. And, we're spending all of that gas, which doesn't seem like a whole lot if the store is just a little bit of ways down the road, but every little drop counts. The country of Peru has issued a state of emergency with regards to their food security. The reasoning behind that is with the cost of fertilizer rising and the cost of grains to feed their animals, The farmers are planting less. They're not able to get the fertilizer to plant all their crops, so they're planting less, and they're importing less animal feed, which means perhaps they're not perhaps they're not raising as many animals to feed their nation. And so they are paying attention, and they realize that their country could be facing some problems. Of course, we've heard about Brazil, and Brazil is a leading grower of soybeans and corn. They're having the same kind of problems with fertilizer, and they're still planting, but they're not able to fertilize. And so some of their farmers are saying they're already expecting to have lower yields on their crops because not able to fertilize and to give those crops the things that they need nutrition-wise. The crops are going to be smaller. Therefore, they're going to have less for their people and less to sell to others. I know a lot of you, just like me, are big coffee drinkers. I love my coffee. And they say that coffee is one of those crops that is highly sprayed with pesticides. But they also are highly fertilized. And that's another area that is having trouble in the countries of Kenya and Zimbabwe and other areas. They are having issues with being able to get the fertilizer to take care of their coffee. And they're making choices too to grow less or to try to grow without the fertilizer to see what kind of crops they would have. One of the farmers that they interviewed from Kenya said that it won't only affect their crops this year, but for the next several years to come. So they're beginning to look at the possibility of an extended period of time that we might have trouble, not just with wheat, but with corn and soybean and coffee and all these other crops. It goes on into to India, and they can't get their fertilizer that they have been getting from these countries. And so they're looking at other sources, Canada, and I think the article said Israel, trying to get fertilizer from those two countries into India to fertilize their crops so that they can grow the things that they need for their country. Experts say that last year China had restrictions on their fertilizer to protect their farmers with demand and with the high cost of energy soaring, with the hopes that they this year would allow more to be released. But I kind of think that they, with all the things that are going on now and the demand for fertilizer and the shortages that people are going to face with fertilizer, I kind of feel like they'll be holding on to what they've got. So some of you may ask about the U.S. and where we fit into all of this. Last year, we know that we had some problems. We had some crop failures. We had some issues with flooding and with drought. And experts estimate that our domestic stores of wheat are at a 14-year low. And worsening drought this year in some areas, and perhaps even flooding, could make that problem even worse this year. With the high price of fuel and fertilizer, farmers are in a tough position. They're having to ask themselves really hard questions about how many acres they should try to plant and what crops they should plant and what should they try to do as far as answering the question of how do they fertilize their crops and how do they make sure that they have the best yield that they could get this year. While it's true that there's some promise in the price that farmers might get from their crops this year, the reality is it's going to cost more to get the crops even put in the fields. Fuel, fertilizer, all those big tractors and all of the equipment runs on diesel. Diesel is up high If you've been, if you've got diesel vehicles, gasoline is high. All of the effort that it takes to get seeds in the ground and fertilizer and then harvesting all of that stuff, it's just kind of an iffy thing. Profit could be there, but the cost of putting it in the ground is outweighing the possibility of the revenue on the end of it. And I've already shared this with you before, but even here on our farm, I just have a small operation. We don't put any crops in as far as wheat and that kind of stuff to be harvested for us. We do every year put in a couple of our pastures will put in wheat just for the cows, and they enjoy that. But we had to really ask ourselves the questions this year, because you have to buy your seed and you have to buy your fertilizer, and that's not usually done until August or September. And we don't know where we stand on that. I buy my hay and my feed. They come off of other farms, and I know the price that I paid for those items last year, and I can only imagine what the cost is going to be this year for those items to come onto the farm. Animal feed is up, not just for cattle, but I guarantee if you've got some backyard chickens or you've got other animals, you have noticed that the prices are going up. So I guess all the things that I've said to you today was to make you ask yourself this question: are we in a global food crisis? Well, perhaps we're not there yet, but I would say that the possibility is real. And, if farmers are planting less and their output is less, and there's smaller areas that are producing, then for all of us, for those that are growing and staying here within our own countries, whatever country you happen to be in, or it's being exported to other countries, if there's smaller yield, and it stands to reason that we could be facing this crisis. But we can help ourselves. Many families are one emergency away from food insecurity. That's here in the U.S. I don't even know the statistics of other countries. But here in the U.S., one emergency away from food insecurity. What could that emergency be? Well, it could be a medical emergency. It could be a job loss. Your car could break down. Any kind of sickness or anything that is an emergency to your family. If you are food insecure, if you are just right there on the edge, paycheck to paycheck, nothing in the bank as a cushion to help in those times. If you don't have any of that, then they say one emergency away from food insecurity. That means you or your babies or somebody that you love can go to bed hungry because you don't have anything in your cabinets. So my suggestion would be to get stocking. The time is now. We've tried to, talk nicely and encourage your hearts, and I'm still trying to do that. I always want to talk to you nicely, and I always want to encourage your hearts, but I want you to understand that we need to get about the business of preparing our pantries, not just our food and our water, but all of the supplies that we think we're going to need, because it's kind of like a domino effect with the food and the water, and then it just goes on down and on down. And when the food gets more important and these things, you're trying to pay for your food and you're trying to pay for your water, these other things get put off to the side, medications often, and all these other things. But if we can think about it ahead of time, while we still have time, put those things back. You might be saying, hey, that's way over there on the other side of the world and it doesn't affect us at all. Well, we need to quit kidding ourselves, and we need to realize that it's a smaller world than what we think it is. And the things that may seem unimportant to some ends up affecting us all. And we got to take care of ourselves and our families. We cannot sit back and say, well, I'll just wait for a stimulus check, or I'll go down and get on food stamps or WIC. And I am not by any means criticizing anybody. Don't think I'm doing that, because those programs are there for people that need them. But we cannot sit back and say, I'll wait for the powers that be to come and help me. Because in a time of crisis, look at Brazil and look at some of these other countries that have been hungry. Their government couldn't come and help them. And your government won't come and help you either, because in the time of crisis, they don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the means to come and to take care of every single person. You have to take care of yourselves. It's hard for us to imagine that we could be in a place that this could happen. But it's all a delicate balance all throughout the world. And things have kind of rattled. That storm is on the horizon, and we've already been met with that front. It's already here. The leading edge of it is here. And we're not through the storm yet. We're just at the leading edge. And we need to continue to prepare. You know, if you see a tornado, I guarantee you, if I know a tornado's coming, I'm making preparation for it. There are things that happen in our lives that happen just out of the blue, and it shocks us and it causes us to reel because we didn't see it coming. But this we see coming. Guys, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to encourage you. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you go. I've yacked at you long enough, and I hope that you realize that we very well could, very soon, be in a food crisis. It sounds like countries all around the world are taking it seriously, considering their fertilizer prices and their fuel prices, the cost of seed and feed and all of those things that affects each and every one of us. So let's continue to look well to the ways of our household, step up our game, stock those pantries with your home canned stuff, your homegrown stuff, but don't be afraid to get that stuff off the grocery shelves while it's still there. Don't be a hoarder, but look well to the ways of your household and always get the things that your family will use. Don't try to get them to eat green peas if they don't like them. I won't eat them. Anyway, this is Josie. I love you guys. I really do. Let's encourage one another to keep going. Trust in the Lord. I love you. I really do. We're gone.